Hey, everybody. Everybody, can I get everybody's attention? I'm sorry, Brent, I know I got you in mid-speech. It's 20 past 3. Carrie, if we can, because I'm sensitive to your time, I don't want to keep you past. If maybe Carrie, if you could start and present back some. Oh. Okay, so Carrie, can you start? And I don't know if you want the microphone.
Long voice, so I don't know if I need it. I'm kind of embarrassed because I took a lot of notes here and we had great conversation, but I'm going to flip back through those and heck if we can read them. So we'll see what we came up with. We actually spent quite a bit of time getting to know each other, and what we learned across the team is that I think almost everyone here is in some form of a digital transformation, early, middle, later. Some have actually employed human-centered design techniques. We had stories to share from that, but it was overall, it was a really good discussion. I could carry it on with some wine, perhaps. So one of the insights that we had, I might let you explain it a little bit better, was the process of journey mapping. And don't mistake the process or the process of how you should be doing the job for the journey itself. And the example or how you brought that home to us is you're going through mapping out how to process invoices, and people are like, well, this is how the process works, but no one's asked the actual person that's paying or getting paid how they feel about it. So that kind of launched into a conversation about the merits or lack thereof of living only in a future state and not being able to relate to the experience that people are living. And we talked about the merits of, and we came up with goods and bads of, if you go around and talk as if you're in the future state, there is a great positive because people believe that you can get there, but it also can lead you to look a bit out of touch, that you don't have a clue of what's really happening in the real world. So it was a good, and in the quote we had there is, if you act like the change has already happened, people believe it will be possible. We talked about the process of actually doing human-centered design or something like that. Owens Corning, you've gone very far in that process, and Ken had some very good examples for us. And as we talked about envisioning the future, we said that most people, if you had someone sitting there doing their job, if they were simply by themselves and had to just come up with envisioning the future self, might not be terribly successful because they know how it works today. Some people can maybe come up with some aspects, but we said you definitely need a lot of techniques to draw that out and make that successful with people. So you have to have leading questions. We talked about the Ford speaker today who said, hey, going as far as, looking at science fiction, to draw people out into future ideas. You would have cross-functional teams, so someone could poke at what someone's doing and have you thought about this, but very difficult for someone individually to just picture themselves 5 years down the road. And you've got to have empathy with that. We were talking about individuals that someone, if you ask them to envision the future, they might be really caught up in the fact that I'm an SME at using SAP, and if I'm picturing something else, maybe I've lost my status. I'm not the expert anymore. So they could be taking that so personally as to what it could mean to their job that they might not be forthcoming in that. Talked about the fact that if you've got the organization trained in human-centered design, the basic tools can be very valuable across the organization, ideation and such. And then finally, we just got talking about how you align expectations. We were talking about the company in Brazil that's going through this process now, and really the struggle you get of, okay, we know what the change looks like, but how do we get the engineers to believe in that change? So anyway, we could have talked a lot longer.
Excellent. Thank you, Carrie. Mike, is your mic on? Maybe you could go next and just give a little update. 5 minutes, maybe?
You got it? All right. So what I will say is that it became readily apparent leading this table is a pretty humbling experience. everything we need to know is sitting in this room. All these folks contributed to an accumulation of this idea. What we didn't have was enough time, right? And so I think the knowledge that exists in here, because you got a pretty good mix of Silver C, right, versus the youth, right? And so a few things we touched on. One of the things we touched on is this sole source of the truth is really important. And that sole source of the truth is what keeps us anchored from having the wasted debate, right, as to is it real or not, right? And then we always need the evangelist. I make a pretty good evangelist, right? And then, amen. See, it's working already. I absolutely love it. And so there's a new term I've learned, right? And it's with them. Is that right? With them. And to understand it ties back to what you were talking about. What's in it for me? And then how do you pronounce the what's in it for you? Yeah, or for us. For us, right? And so those two things are a concept that as you go through communicating and connecting with people, which was much of our conversation, is how do you carry the message and connect with people, that if you keep this in mind, right, that when you start to apply these new agile methods, you have a greater sensitivity to what the person wants to do. So I think we could have spent literally hours on this topic and mapped out everything that the vast amount of knowledge that these folks have and what they're trying to achieve. And some of them are trying to achieve it coming from vendors to end users and from very large organizations for which you've been assigned a task that maybe the entire organization is not committed to yet, right? And they're just expecting something to be done to them, and they don't know what that is yet. So it's an ongoing conversation, and I think that forums like these and things need to address more, right? Expand the conversation. I think this conversation for me was a lot more valuable than sit and listen to a panelist conversation, right? Because these folks are very engaged. They were sharing their experiences, and it's, for all of us, I think it's pretty valuable.
Okay, thanks, and thanks for the feedback, Mike. Brent, you're up. Yeah, I don't know if you need this microphone.
Yeah, maybe not. I get that all the time. My wife says it all the time to me. She says, "You're screaming." I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." Okay, I just wrote down 3 things. I'm going to ask the team here to kind of give you what they thought was worthy to share with you as well. But I looked at it 3 themes. Is what doors does going digital open to you as an organization, as a change agent? Things like global standardization, yet you allow people to have their individual preferences met. You have unintended consequences, like we've learned that with some of our digital solutions, we thought they'd like it because they were cool and techie and helped them do their jobs, but it let them have their voices heard and it improved employee engagement. So some things we didn't even think we were going to get, we got. And then the benefits are we realizing with digital solutions in terms of work and work productivity. We're finding that with digital, we're curating data and it's streamlining it. We're finding that 60% of our content's redundant, 30% of it's a different category. So we're having all of these numbers now, and we're understanding our data. So it's just not files in a SharePoint system anymore. And the new mental models that we're having to come up with, because now we got to learn what is a digital page. How do we explain to management the benefits of a digital solution when they can't see the, institutionalized buried costs they were paying that they've been paying for years but have never known they've paid those things. So I think it's a lot of these kind of things. So we're working on this content curation model. We're doing behavioral training that we're just not teaching safety skills, but we're modeling behavioral skills. And I think there's some things like that. So I don't know if there's anything else anybody wants to say.
You mentioned Michelle Rock.
Oh, yeah, the first thing that really came up was retirement, the aging workforce. How are we doing that? We've got 3 levels of countermeasures, I'd call them. At the basic level, we have basic forms that people can fill out to say, hey, what were your big networks? What were your big data sources? Where'd you go for this? What did you do with that? And that can get logged in like SharePoints, and that's nice because it goes in by discipline category. But then you can do more formal engagement like this, where you bring in the person that's leaving, and we do a ROC, which is a retention of critical knowledge. So we get an actual facilitator to come in with a structured process to extract all the information from this person. And this whole room will get a chance to ask questions and figure things out. And then the third thing that we do is this is really for exceptionally high-level people or people that we really need to get their insight, is we do what's called tacit knowledge extractions. And this is something I worked out with a Harvard professor, that you actually have a model that you ask these questions that people don't even know to say these things. And it's a really great thing to watch, because this person said, well, I would never thought to tell you that. And it's, that's all you get is, so once you get past that rock of that structured stuff, you interview them on a 2-on-1 basis, that you find stuff that they didn't even know they should tell you, or they didn't even know they knew. And that's the cool part of that. So that's it. Sometimes that works, if the rack doesn't work. Oh gosh, we've had quite 10 years. Not the tacit, I just did that about 3 years ago. I wish you could. I mean, I'd love to think about how you do that. You probably could. I mean, the machine learning could probably do better than I did. But yeah.
But you digitize the results for the data that you extract.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do. Yeah. So the other thing we do is called a practice worth replicating. So if somebody says, hey, I got a great thing that we did, there's a form that they put it in, then it can go in a database. Time?
Excellent. Listen, we are out of time, so Brent, Mike, Carrie, thank you so much. It really was an excellent session. Everybody else, please sign the email card if you want a copy of the report, and please rate this session so we can decide if there's value in doing a workshop next year. Thank you very much.